Hello everybody, I am Matt Pierce and welcome back to another video. As you can see, here is my Mk6 GTI. Now today is going to be a very useful and helpful video for a lot of you guys, especially you aspiring GTI owners or just fresh new GTI owners, or even some older GTI owners, some people who've owned GTIs for a little bit of time. Basically, we're going to be talking about reliability and how you can keep these cars running reliably. So we're going to talk about stuff that fails sometimes, stuff that fails rarely, stuff that fails almost on every single GTI. So first off, yes, this is a Mk6 GTI. Now the Mk6s are largely considered by the community as the most unreliable GTIs. So all you Mk6 owners, you know, I'm sure you're sad to hear that, but they're still pretty reliable, and I think in general, Volkswagen gets a really bad rap for being unreliable. A lot of the issues that happen to these cars don't result in catastrophic immediate failure of the engine. They don't make it blow up or anything like that. While there may be little issues, they're easy to prevent and fix. If you do that prevention and fixing, you won't have the issues come up in the first place, and your car should run really great for a long time. You'll often see these cars go up to, 200,000+ miles. So we're just gonna get in here and pop the hood and start discussing some reliability. Here is the engine of the Mk6 GTI. We're going to start by talking about the timing chain. This is not an issue on the Mk7s. I know it's not as much of an issue on the Mk5s and the Mk4s and such, but I know it's not an issue on the Mk7s, but it definitely is an issue on the Mk6s. On the Mk6 GTI, Volkswagen put cheap timing chain tensioners, which hold the tension of the chain so it doesn't skip and jump a tooth and put the car out of timing. And of course, timing is very essential for the motor. So obviously this can be fixed, and this was the first thing that I actually did to my car. Especially if your car is over 100,000 miles, you're going to want to make sure that you replace your timing chain. Now this is the only issue that we're going to talk about today that actually results in, or can result in, catastrophic failure of the motor. So yeah, that's something you want to get fixed. By the way, links to all the stuff that you need down in the description below. There are many different kits available. I bought the ECS kit for this car, which comes with basically everything you need, and then I took that kit to a shop, and the shop installed it for about $900, so it's a pretty expensive job. It's going to be the most expensive one on this list, but it's worth it to not have your motor explode. But you can also use it when you're buying the GTI. Say like, look, this is something I need to do to these cars. I want to buy the car, but you're gonna have to knock the price down a little bit so I can get this fixed. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is right here. This is your PCV system. I actually made a whole video about this. Essentially what this PCV system does is this whole system right here is it takes the extra blow-by that your motor produces and vents it back into the intake manifold. The diaphragm in here can fail, preventing this system from doing its job and venting it back into the intake manifold, and it can create extra crankcase pressure and blow out seals, and that is just not good for the motor. That is not what you want for your motor. You want your PCV system to be working properly. Thankfully, there is a cheap fix that I discussed in my video where you just buy a $30 diaphragm and replace just this piece here. It's an easy do-it-yourself, and it will save you a lot of time and money than replacing this entire piece. So this is one of the cheaper and easier ones to fix, and it's easy to test if it's bad. Basically, if you have your motor running and you pull out the dipstick here and it doesn't bog down at all, that means that your PCV is broken. Now, the next one that we're going to talk about here is your intake manifold. Now, these intake manifolds can fail. It's not super expensive for a new one, and they came out with an updated one, but essentially there's little flaps in your intake manifold that help the engine regulate. In any case, these flaps can fail and get stuck, closed, or open, and you'll get all sorts of issues, so it needs to be replaced. I believe it actually can be replaced under warranty if you're a certain mileage. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is probably something that you should replace on most vehicles, and that is going to be your coil packs here and your spark plugs underneath. Very easy to change. I have upgraded coil packs and spark plugs here because my motor is tuned. These coil packs right here can go bad and fail, and you'll start to have misfires. Same things for the spark plugs. They need to be changed, and it's not too expensive to change. And it's very easy to do a DIY change of the coil packs and spark plugs. Definitely something that you should do on these motors. And also, injectors can have issues on these cars, stuck open or closed. So failed injectors can happen, and then injectors are a pain in the butt and kind of expensive to replace. Now, the next thing that we can talk about here is going to be the turbo. Of course, this is a turbocharged vehicle. Turbos are great. They give us a a lot of power, they make great noises, and they're really fun to drive, but that can cause some issues sometimes. These turbos on the Mk6 GTI here, the intake manifold and the PCV is also not an issue on the Mk7 GTI, but it is on the Mk6. But yeah, the turbo here on the Mk6 GTI can fail sometimes. The wastegate can fail, it'll rattle and the wastegate won't work properly, or sometimes the turbo can just fail and get old anyways, especially if your car is burning a lot of oil. Moving into oil, because it's a turbocharged vehicle, this car needs a special kind of oil, and basically that's just a 5W40 VW certified oil. I run Liquimoly 5W40 in this car, and I change it about every 4,000 miles. The maximum that you should do on these cars is 5,000 mile oil changes. You don't want to go any more than that. But yeah, if your turbo fails, that basically just means you need a new turbo, but it also gives you a good excuse to upgrade the turbo. But yeah, speaking of oil, oil can be an issue here with burning oil. This car burns a little bit. All turbo cars burn a little bit of oil, but your PCV can make your car burn a little bit more oil, and you know, if the car has a higher mileage, it might burn a little bit more oil, so you're going to want to check your oil about every week and make sure that it's topped off nicely and it's not going to run out of oil, because if you run your car out of oil, well, you might as well kiss your motor goodbye. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the DSG transmission that this car has. Obviously, we can't really see the transmission here. It's under the motor and sort of under the battery over here, but these DSG transmissions have DSG fluid that needs to be changed every so often. About every 40,000 miles is what Volkswagen says. I say lower than that, probably every 35,000. I just changed my DSG fluid at 100,000 miles, so I'll have to change it again pretty soon, because if you fail to do so, your transmission might fail altogether, which would be really bad news because these transmissions are not cheap and a transmission change is not a cheap job. And the DSG fluid kit, it's pretty easy to do it yourself. It does take a little bit of time though, and I think a DSG fluid change is either $200 or $300 for this car, but you really don't have to do it too much, about every 2 years or so if you drive a decent amount, so not too bad there. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is carbon cleaning. So under our intake manifold, of course, the valves that let air into the motor, because this is a direct injection vehicle, there's no fuel injectors spraying fuel onto those valves, so they can get gummed up with gross carbon gunk. So those need to be cleaned. I have not done that yet. It's something I need to do. They sell like walnut blaster kits to do it yourself, or you can get it done somewhere at most every 100,000 miles or so, but a lot of people like to do it every 50,000 miles. If you're having misfire issues, this can be the cause of it, or it could be coil packs or even your intake manifold flappers. Misfiring could be a whole number of things on these cars. So yeah, everybody, that's about it. The last one I'm going to mention is the fuel filter. It's probably something you should change as well, but that goes for pretty much any car. The fuel filter, probably want to change that. I think it's back there somewhere. I don't know. I have to do that job. That's something I gotta get done. But yeah, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I am Matt Pierce. I really hope that this video was useful for you guys. Again, all sorts of links will be down in the description below on how to repair this stuff, and links for what you need to buy to repair some of this stuff. But if you guys have any questions, please make sure to leave them down in the comments below, and if this video helped you guys out at all, please make sure you leave it a like. Check some of my other videos out on the channel. More to come in the future, but I already have some really great videos I think a lot of you GTI owners and just car owners in general are going to like. Thanks for watching. I'm Matt Pierce, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.